And and yeah, man. So that's just basically my life journey in a small little nugget. There's a whole lot more than that. I don't know which way you want to go with it,
Yeah, of
but
course, of course. Like it's so you, because I personally have SMA type 2, and so you having SMA type 3, you got to experience what it's like to go from, ordinary life in terms of walking and having a form of independence to going through that transition to now losing that form of independency. What was that transitional phase like for you?
yeah, it was difficult, man, because like you said, going from being independent to now being dependent on people for things that I used to be able to do and things that I should be able to do on my own as a man became that was a difficult transition for me because now that's teaching me humility. I got to humble myself now. Now I got to start getting comfortable with asking for help and,
Right.
having those brave moments and those courageous moments and just developing that because, I was the type of like, I don't need help. I could do this. I could do that. You know what I mean? I can open doors on my own. I can
Yeah.
get dressed on my own. I can bathe myself. I can get in and out of bed. I can drive a car. I was driving and everything. So, yeah, little fun fact, I used to be a cab driver in New York, so you can imagine how I was whipping them streets.
That is
But
so cool.
yeah, but it was like I said, man,
Wow.
I even though SMA sucks, man, I lived a great life, bro. You know what I mean? Like you said, being SMA type 3 and being able to walk for 22 years, I'm grateful for that. I,
Yeah.
I absolutely miss it. I can't wait to the day, hopefully I'm alive, for the day comes where they find a cure for SMA
Yeah.
once and for all. But, if that day doesn't come, before my clock stops ticking, then I can't complain, man. I've lived an amazing, incredible life, bro. When I think about it, and I get emotional because I'm the motivator, right? That's what I do for a living. I motivate people, encourage, inspire, whatever. And but I'm human too, and I have feelings and I have emotions, and I have the days where I'm down and out, and I'm not feeling the greatest, and I'm not feeling inspired or motivated. And sometimes, right, my flesh goes down that wants to go back down that rabbit hole, right? Because
Yeah.
it's difficult for me to now pick up a drink to my mouth and I get frustrated because I used to be able to do it and I can't do it anymore and it's just so frustrating. And I hear people say sometimes like, "Oh, well, you can't miss it if you never had it," type of thing. And I just think that that's such bull crap because, if you never walked, right? I know a lot of SMA people who never walked. Like, if I was to say, "Hey, would you want to walk again?" You wouldn't be like, "Nah, I'm okay with where I'm at.
Right.
I don't want to experience that." You know what I mean? Of course,
Yeah.
everybody would want to do that. You know what I'm saying? That you don't have to, it's not one of those type of things where you have to experience it to want it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and then when I have those moments, I think about, were you able to walk ever, Victor?
No, so like I won't go into my full story, but at 2.5 years old, I was diagnosed with SMA type 2 through a muscle biopsy. So I never got to get the experience of what it's like to have that form of independency.
Yeah. So you see, like when I go through my little pity parties, I think about people like you, like that never had that opportunity. You know what I mean? And that helps me to like snap out of it. Like not only you, but just other people that don't. I have a friend that has no arms. Well, he has one arm and no legs. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? So I start to think about him, and I'm like, and all these other people that I know that would quote unquote looking at them may look like they have it worse than me
Right.
because of the lack of mobility that they were never able to experience. And so that's what helps me get out of my funk a lot of times. When I start beating myself up and feeling like this, I'm like, I just start to switch it and just say, you know what, I'm grateful because there's other people who can't do what I can still do. Even though I can't do much myself now physically, there's other people that can't do even what I can do. And so that type of thinking makes me snap out of it and makes me just go back into an attitude of gratitude and helps me to snap out of it fairly quickly. I never go down a rabbit hole when I'm like upset and depressed and frustrated or overwhelmed for an entire day. I might have like an hour or 30 minutes of that, but then I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, it's time to snap out of it and get back to reality.
Of course. So what do you think? I mean, because from personal experience as well, when you sound like you really have an appreciation for, this life despite what it is you go through. Like, where do you think that attitude comes from? Do you think it was from your upbringing? Do you think it was from, maybe how you were raised.